All right, let's dive into another deep dive. This time we're going to be tackling a big one, Destinee. And we're looking at it through the lens of a Christian evangelical devotional text.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You shared podcast 28, right, by Pastor Gitzlane, Pastor Guy, I think they call him.
Yeah, that's right.
This looks like it's part of a larger series.
Yeah.
But we're going to be checking out, his perspective on stuff like life's purpose, free will, how to make the most of the time we got, all within, the context of his faith.
Yeah, it's it's a rich area to get into, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this text, it just dives right in, doesn't it?
It does.
With this idea that destiny isn't just this, one thing.
Yeah. That was one of the first things I noticed.
Yeah.
Like, right off the bat, the text quotes David, right, from Psalms.
Yeah.
Talking about his destinies, plural.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, to me, it kind of suggests that, destiny might not be this one, single path.
Right.
That's already been, decided for you.
Yeah.
The text actually uses this as kind of a jumping off point to say that, different parts of our lives, could be part of our, destinies, plural.
Yeah. So not just like one big preordained thing. It's
Right.
like our careers.
Yeah.
Our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. All those, different areas, they have their own paths, their own challenges.
Yeah.
Their own triumphs.
It kind of takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think so.
It's not about just finding the one path, but navigating multiple ones that are all kind of tied together.
Exactly. And it kind of connects to this idea, too, that even when we feel lost, there's a bigger picture in play. The text, it brings up Isaiah, right?
Yep.
Isaiah 40.27, where the prophet Isaiah is talking to, people who feel like God has hidden their way. I think that resonates with anyone who's felt, unsure about, where they're going in life.
Right. It's like, what am I doing? What's my purpose?
Yeah, exactly. And the text doesn't shy away from that feeling, right?
Right.
But it kind of offers this perspective that even when we're uncertain, there's still a plan, even if we can't see the whole thing yet.
Okay, so we might not see the whole plan, but there is one?
Right, yeah, a plan's in motion.
Okay. Interesting. Now, the text brings up a pretty powerful image, I thought. Jesus in Luke, I think it's 23.46. Where right before he dies, he entrusts his spirit to God, which is pretty intense stuff, theologically speaking.
Yeah.
So how does that tie into this whole, destiny thing?
It's significant, because Christians believe that Jesus was, both fully human and fully divine.
Right.
And so this verse, I think it highlights that even Jesus, as a human, submitted to this, a larger plan, a destiny, I guess you could say. It's a complex idea. But think of it like this. Even though he was divine, Jesus chose to experience, being human with all the challenges and the uncertainties that come with that. And ultimately, he entrusted himself to, a purpose that was bigger than himself.
So even Jesus, as divine as he was, had a destiny to fulfill.
That's the idea.
Huh. It makes you think, what does that mean for, the rest of us who don't have that divine connection? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. And that's where this idea of stewardship comes in, I think.
Okay.
The text, it uses this analogy of a tombstone, the dash between the dates.
Right.
The birth and the death date. That dash, it's it's our lifetime. And we're basically stewards of that dash,
Right.
It's we're responsible for how we use the time we're given.
I like that. The dash.
Yeah.
Really kind of brings it home, This is the time we have.
Yeah.
And we got to use it wisely.
Exactly, yeah. And, within this whole stewardship thing, we have, choices, actions. And as the text points out, there's a level of accountability there.
Oh, interesting.
Right. We have the freedom to shape our lives, but we're also, responsible for the consequences of those choices.
Yeah. And, the text gets even more specific, too, by bringing in an expression, I think, from the Fongbi language.
Oh, yeah. I love this.
What is that?
It basically translates to he used his life in disorder, or he mismanaged his life. It's a very vivid way to describe a life that, maybe feels aimless or unfulfilled. That person didn't really, live up to their full potential,
Yeah.
That dash.
Yeah. And I found it interesting that Pastor Guy chose to use a phrase from another culture, right?
Yeah.
Does that say something? Like, is this a universal thing?
I think so, yeah. This fear of like wasting your life is
No.
definitely not limited to, one culture. It's like a human thing.
Right.
But the text, it doesn't, dwell on that fear. Instead, it introduces this really powerful message of hope through Romans 8.2.
Okay, let's get into that. What does Romans 8.2 say about all this?
Well, this verse talks about being set free from the law of sin and death.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially offering a chance for, like redemption, a fresh start, even if we feel like, we messed up or like our dash isn't reflecting the life we wanted.
Okay, so even if we feel like we've messed up, we're not stuck.
Right.
There's still a chance to kind of get back on track, I guess, with our purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the message.
Within this Christian framework,
right.
It's never too late to kind of realign, right, with our purpose and maybe find a path that feels more meaningful.
That's exactly it. And the text goes beyond just, offering hope, right?
Yeah.
It also gives us these like tools to help us actually pursue that.
Tools, okay?
Yeah, through specific prayers and declarations.
Oh, yeah. So that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. That's how we put this into practice. It encourages us, to ask for guidance, for direction, for strength to overcome obstacles, and for peace and prosperity. And these prayers, they're not just like, asking for things, right?
Right.
It's more about like actively engaging with our faith and seeking, alignment with like a higher purpose.
Like a roadmap almost, or maybe a set of tools.
Yeah.
For how to actually take control of your destiny within this belief system.
Yeah, exactly. And it all kind of ties back to this idea from 1 Timothy 6.1, which emphasizes, fighting the good fight.
Right. Yeah, it's not just a passive thing. Destiny isn't just going to fall into your lap. You got to work for it. You got to pursue it.
Right. Yeah. It takes effort, resilience, and a willingness to, face those challenges head on. But the text suggests, that the reward is a life lived with, purpose and intention.
And this brings us to the author himself, Pastor G, right? A pastor, husband, father, author. Seems like he's really dedicated to helping people find their purpose, both through his writing and, at his church. Allegedly, he's in Minnesota.
Yeah, his church, it focuses on, discipleship and global missions, which really seems to, like, reflect this belief, in actively living out your faith. It's interesting to see how all these different parts of his life, his faith, his family, his work, they all kind of feed into this message of, empowerment.
It does seem like he's, walking the walk, not just talking about it. But what I find really interesting is, how much of this resonates even if you don't subscribe to this specific faith,
Yeah, for sure.
This whole idea of fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
Something we see in a lot of, like, secular self-help stuff, too.
Totally.
Motivational stuff.
Setting goals, facing those challenges head on, pushing through when things get tough. It's all about having that grit and determination to create the life you want, regardless of, what you believe.
Yeah, it's about agency.
Yeah.
Taking ownership of your path. So what does all this mean for, the listener? Whether or not you, identify with the Christian evangelical faith, what can you take away from this whole, this deep dive into destiny?
Well, I think, for one, it encourages us to consider that, destiny or purpose, however you want to call it, it can be multifaceted, right? Like we were talking about earlier. It's not just about finding that one single path.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that all these different parts of our lives, our careers, our relationships, our personal growth, they're all part of this larger picture.
Right. And recognizing that might help us to feel, less pressure. To find that one right answer.
Yeah.
We can just focus on navigating each path as it unfolds, knowing that they all kind of contribute to the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And while this text, frames it within the context of, God's plan, even if you don't, subscribe to that belief, you can still find meaning in this idea of like being a steward of your own life, you know? You're the captain of your ship, so to speak.
Right, yeah.
That dash between the dates on a tombstone, it represents the time that you have, and you have the power to fill it with purpose and intention.
I love that, the power to fill your dash. And part of that, as this devotional highlights, is about embracing the struggle, the good fight.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that challenges, they're going to happen. They're inevitable. But facing those challenges head on, that can be an opportunity to grow. It's about, pushing through adversity to achieve your goals, whether those goals are, personal, professional, or spiritual.
Yeah. It's about taking ownership, making choices, and actively shaping, the course of your life. And even if you make mistakes along the way, the text offers this reassuring message that there's always room for redemption.
Right. You can always reset, realign yourself with your, deepest value.
Get back to writing your story.
Exactly.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that you hope listeners will, remember?
Well, I think first, embrace the idea that destiny or purpose, it can be multifaceted.
Okay.
It's not just this single, preordained path. There's room for exploration and growth in, different areas of your life.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, look for guidance and support when you need it. Whether that's, through prayer, through a mentor, or just connecting with, your loved ones. You're not in this alone.
Yeah.
And finally, remember, the importance of action. Fight for what you want. Take ownership of your choices. And never give up on, pursuing a life that feels meaningful to you.
You are the author of your own story. Write a good one. Yeah, and it's not about just sitting around waiting for it to happen, is it?
Yeah. No, not at all. You got to go after it. You got to, take those steps, even the little ones.
Yeah.
To move yourself towards, the life that you really want to be living, like Pastor Guy says, You got to fight for it. Your future, you're not just a bystander in your own life.
We've been talking about this dash, right? This whole symbol of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that, the path to destiny, or whatever you want to call it,
right,
it's not always a straight line.
That's a great point. There's going to be detours, roadblocks. You might even take a wrong turn now and then.
Yeah.
But all those experiences, the challenges, they shape us,
They can. I mean, they refine us, they teach us lessons, maybe even prepare us for, what's coming next.
Exactly, yeah. Like they say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Right.
Even those, setbacks, the moments that might feel, kind of disordered, to use, Pastor Guy's term.
Yeah.
They can hold these valuable lessons that, kind of guide us toward our true purpose.
So it's not about being perfect
Yeah.
or always making the right choices. It's more about, learning and growing from those experiences.
Yeah.
Even the messy ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us back to that message of hope that kind of runs through this whole text.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you are in your journey, no matter how lost or how off track you might feel, there's always that chance to realign yourself.
Yeah.
To start fresh.
Yeah.
To get back to that sense of purpose and direction.
To get back to writing your story.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that you really hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I'd say, first, remember that destiny or purpose, it can be multifaceted.
Right.
It's not just this one path that's, been set for you.
Yeah.
There's room to explore, to grow.
Yeah.
In different areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to reach out for guidance.
Right.
Support when you need it. Could be through prayer, it could be a mentor, it could be, just talking to your family, your friends.
Yeah, you're not in this alone.
Exactly. You're not alone. And lastly, remember to take action.
Yeah.
Fight for what you want, own your choices, and never give up on pursuing a life that feels meaningful to you.
You are the author of your own story.
That's right.
Write a good one.